It's an At the Office edition of the East Bank Sports Show, serving up the hottest sports takes from right here in Cleveland, Ohio. It's your hosts, Noah, John, and Erik.
All right.
I think we have some technical difficulties because I didn't hear a word that Noah said.
But I'll
Interesting. Are we good now?
Yes.
Welcome into the office, this Cleveland sports show where we talk all things sports, not just Cleveland. I'm your host, Noah, and I'm joined with my co-hosts, John and Erik. And you can join us at the office too. Send us a comment on YouTube, Facebook, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, or text the show. 216-250-1411. That is 216-250-1411. John, Erik, boys, together again. How we doing?
Finally.
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be with you guys. Thanks for being flexible on the time. My schedule is crazy right now, but great job on the show last week. I listened to the whole thing in its entirety. I heard Erik say 2 times something to the effect of, even John would probably agree. And I was like, son of a bitch. I do agree. Well done.
I love it.
Thank you, guys. It's good to be back.
Tim Lyons throwing me with the low blow already. Good show with a muted Noah then. LOL. Whatever, guys. Hurts my feelings. Go ahead, Erik. How are you, man?
I'm good. I mean, I was just doing the same thing. I was kind of eyeing John like, you hearing the same thing I'm hearing, which is nothing. But that's all right. We're here. We're here to talk sports. I'm in a good mood. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it, man. And let's get right into it because I'm juiced that the three of us are back together. I'm not juiced that we had some technical difficulties, but let's get past that. And let's go into mine, yours, John's, maybe. I don't know. I feel like Erik's favorite is 30-second takes. Let's go into 30-second takes. What do you want the Browns to do in round 1 of the NFL draft? And because he's making his return after a week off, John, I want you to start us off. Tell me when you are ready.
I'm ready. Let's go.
Go for it. Most
important position in sports, it's quarterback. I don't need the other 20 seconds, but I'll take them. We need a quarterback. Deshaun's terrible. We don't have an answer there. That's why the Browns' record is what it is. There's some other stuff. I know O-line and defense, yada, 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 but the reason that we're abysmal is because of poor quarterback play, so we have to find the next answer there. I just hope we're not so capped out that we can't put any talent around whoever we draft.
Interesting. Erik, you ready, my man?
Yeah, let's do it. John might have been gone, but his bad takes persist because this is not a quarterback class that I really want to draft from. I don't think Sanders is the guy. I don't think Ewers is the guy. We've had a terrible time developing quarterbacks, so organizationally, I don't think we're doing anyone any favors there. This is a great class for O-linemen. I think we shore that up. Maybe we take a talented receiver. We have holes everywhere. That's the problem. I agree we need a quarterback. I just don't think this class is it.
So, Erik, I'm going to throw my my timer up. Can you take care of me if I go over?
Oh, I'll mute you, buddy.
Yeah, no worries. With that being said, I want to get into my take because it's a mixture. Yes, I do think O-line is very important. Yes, I am nervous about this quarterback class, but I think someone's going to make Andrew Berry or whoever is making the decisions because everything's an if with this Cleveland Browns team at this point. It's going to tickle someone's fancy, and we're going to end up with a quarterback, especially with how deep this draft is at offensive line. So we have time, in the second round to basically go ahead and pick one of those premier positions, left tackle. There you go. Thank you. I was going to finish my sentence, but my last sentence was just left tackle, period. Happens to the best of us, but I was still trying to fit it in on the time, gentlemen.
We had the best offensive lineman, best left tackle maybe of all time, and lost all 16 games one year. So yeah. we can debate it at more depth later. This is not a good quarterback class. I agree with you there, but then trade and get a quarterback. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. if we're including a pick to get a guy that we think is our guy, even if it's our first round pick, I'm perfectly okay with that. But to pull a Johnny Manziel and try to, to fit a square peg in a round hole, it just doesn't make sense for me. I'd rather get talent where we can.
Yeah, I think one of these quarterbacks, I get the hype in Shadur, don't get me wrong. I think that some of these quarterbacks are going to expose themselves to be like the guy. You know what I mean? There was 5 quarterbacks in the Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Lamar Jackson, Josh Rosen, Josh Allen draft. You have 4 or 5 guys that could go in the first round this year. I don't think that really points to it being a horrible quarterback draft. I think it points to it being top heavy or maybe middle heavy that leans top heavy, but I digress. There's still a lot of time. Hey, we just have got a new play caller announced earlier today, but we are not going to
Finally.
now. Yes, finally, I agree. I think it was time to try something different. As much as a Stefanski fanboy that I am, but we have
Too
more.
little, too late.
More.
That saying has never been more poignant than it is for the Browns at what, 1-6?
I mean, if they go undefeated, they can make the playoffs, right?
Yeah, okay.
Fair enough. Gentlemen, we have more important matters to get into because something special, near and dear to my own heart, starts today. Well, it started yesterday, but it starts today for us, damn it. The Cleveland Cavaliers are back. They play at 7:30, about an hour from now. They play the Toronto Raptors in Toronto, starting the season on the road. I know I'm watching, Eric. I don't know if you're going to be watching or John, you're going to be watching. But I wanted to open this up today, talk about the Cavaliers, talk about their season, basically give it a good old hearty preview of what we have going on. I want to give, just a couple statistics real quick, and then I'll let you guys go in with your takes, okay? First of all, I think we all have to put into perspective this. The Cavs' resume right now looks downright impressive. Consecutive playoff runs without LeBron James, that has not happened since before the LeBron James era 1 and or 2, as well as, pushing towards making that Eastern Conference. The additions from this season obviously are adding head coach Kenny Atkinson, Jalen Tyson, JT Thor, Luke Travers, all guys that are going to be fringe two-way players. Out, obviously, JB Bickerstaff, head coach of the Detroit Pistons now. Marcus Morris, our enforcer that we picked up late at the end of the year, which I did like, but I get why you don't bring him back. It just didn't fit. Damon Jones, Isaiah Mobley. Shout out Evan Mobley's brother. I don't even know if he's on a roster. 2023-24, finished the record 48-34, lost the Celtics in the second round, of course. They had an offensive rating of 114.7, ranked 16th. And a defensive rating of 112.1, ranked 7th. I will now open the floor to you guys. Eric, what are you thinking about the Cleveland Cavaliers?
I guess the thing I'm most excited about is to see how Kenny Atkinson fills in this role. He was one of the top picks that I had for the job, so I was excited when they announced that. I think we have talent. I still feel like we're a piece away. I don't know if you guys watched that Knicks-Celtics game last night. The Knicks, for all accounts, are a very good team as well, and the Celtics dominated them. They tied a record for most threes made at, I think it was 29 in an opening game. I just feel like there's a gulf between us and teams like the Celtics. It feels like we're one piece away. For me, what I really want to see, and I know we won't see it, and I know I've said this before, either in person, I don't know about on the pod, I'd really like to see 2 really cohesive units playing. First of all, back up. Do I think that both Mitchell and Garland can play together? Yeah, they've done it before. We started off red hot last year. Our defense is really what carried us. And then somewhere along the line, it seemed like that flipped. Our defense softened. We weren't putting up as much offense. I don't know what happened. What I'd really like to see, honestly, is 2 different units, 2 distinct units that kind of split time evenly. I'd like to see one with Mitchell and Allen together, and then I'd like to see one with Garland and Mobley together. And I don't care how you do it. If it's a starting thing that's an issue, then have them all start in the first 5 minutes. If or split starts every other game. But I think it just gives you the opportunity to be flexible, to have two pretty good teams out there that mesh well together. You get players that get rested then, and you have them kind of splitting half time there. Again, this is fantasy land because I don't think it's ever going to happen. That said, like I said, I just think we're one piece away from being a dominant team. But watching the Celtics last night, we're just nowhere near those guys. I hate to say it. And the sad thing is, what I love your intro, Noah, because you're dead on right. We've made strides and what we've done has been excellent. But the sad reality is we are a post-LeBron Cavs team, and he kind of set the expectation of what to expect. It is a failure losing and not going to the finals. That's just
Right.
That's fact, right? If you're a Cleveland sports fan, we expect this team now to be in the finals. I think Atkinson's going to move that ball forward more. But I still don't think, unless we make some moves by the trade deadline, we're not competing with teams like the Celtics.
John, I want you to dig in here because I have a different opinion from what, Erik has had to say here, but I kind of want to hear what you have to say first, and then I'm going to take it away with some more statistics and, some essay-based backing that I spent maybe a little bit too much time on. But go ahead, John.
Yeah, it's going to be if Erik thought my first take was bland because it sounds like typical John, he's going to think this one sounds like typical me too. I don't think the Cavs needed that much to contend. I actually agreed with the overwhelming majority of what Erik said, but he had one statement that I would disagree with, and he said the Cavs are nowhere near teams like the Celtics. I think the Cavs are very near the teams like the Celtics. They just aren't there.
Semantics, but okay.
Well, maybe it was hyperbole.
It is. Yeah.
If Donovan Mitchell doesn't get hurt and keeps as hot as he was last year, and Darius Garland wasn't on a milk carton missing, I think we pushed the Celtics to 6 or 7 games last year. I think that this team can compete with the Milwaukee Bucks. We don't have a talent like Giannis, but when you look top to bottom for the whole roster, our starting five is really good and really talented. The other thing is we haven't seen them take the court yet. So, yeah, Boston looked amazing last night. They got 81 left to play. The Cavs still have 82. If Donovan Mitchell returns to that, hey, he's in the MVP conversation type of performer, and Darius Garland doesn't go missing in the playoffs, I think we're right there. I'm looking forward to seeing what we do with the offense now that JB's out. I hope we don't lose too much on defense. When I look at the weaknesses of the team, I think it's size. Guards in the NBA are huge now, so we have a small backcourt. And then Jared Allen and Evan Mobley are good defenders regular season, but they're going to have trouble with the Embiids of the world and bully ball in the playoffs. But I think that this team can make an honest run at the Eastern Conference if guys don't go AWOL. I don't think they have nearly as far to go as some people say. If we were to add a LeBron talent, if we were to add a name your favorite superstar here kind of player, then obviously that puts us over the top. You can say we're firmly in the conversation. But I think if Donovan Mitchell plays the way Donovan Mitchell can play, I expect the Cavs to compete. I do think that the Celtics and the Knicks will be ahead of us. But then there's a pack of Milwaukee Bucks, Cleveland Cavs, 76ers, Indiana Pacers where anything can happen. And we could very well be at the top of that, depending on how the chips fall, who gets hurt, when, and where. I think the Cavs can make a run. Now, the NBA Finals, no. But the Eastern Conference Finals, could the Cavs make an appearance if they avoid the Celtics on the other side of the bracket? I don't see why that's outside the realm of possibility if they stay healthy.
I mean, I don't disagree with that take. That's essentially what I said. First of all, you had a lot of ifs. If we can get Mobley to play, that would be great.
Let me jump in here.
I don't disagree
first.
that we could be in the conference finals.
Let me jump in here first because I have some backing, some statistics kind of off of what John's saying because my take is a mixture, right? First of all, the biggest if here and the biggest if with the Cleveland Cavaliers to me will forever and always be, can we unlock the unicorn that is inside Evan Mobley, right? That is the biggest key to us making a run at anything. Evan Mobley is 23 years old, 22 years old, and was a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year. That's fantastic. He is a great defender. He is a solid all-star level player, but his offense has never been at that level. Let me go macro for a second. Kenny Atkinson is an offensive-minded coach. The reason I love the Kenny Atkinson hire so much is because it brings in the piece that this Cavs team has yet to have. They need that offensive mind to push them to do more. Our pacing on the floor under JB Bickerstaff was asininely slow for modern day basketball, on top of the fact that you have 4 all-star quality players. All 4 players on your starting lineup have all made the all-star roster at one point, and you can't get them all to gel offensively. That was a knock on JB. We are past the JB era now. Going back to the JB era, though, when you look at the core 4 when they're healthy, because that's another big issue of what was going on with the core 4 last year, the core 4 obviously being Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell. Their net rating when they're all on the court was plus 8.2. That is elite territory when you put it up there next to some of these other, big name group of players. You want to say the Boston Celtics, maybe Damian Lillard and Giannis. It puts them in that realm, right? You then look at assist percentage, 65.2. That is a high-level assist percentage with a passer like Darius Garland on the floor, facilitating the ball, them getting the ball, assisting, and making points. Then you go to effective field goal percentage, which I know this is all advanced metrics, but this is why they stuck with the team, and this is why I agree with keeping the roster basically the same, running it back with an offensive-minded coach. The effective field goal percentage of the Cavs core 4 was 55.4. What is effective field goal percentage? It basically filters in, the thought of a 3 versus a 2. Being above 50% with an effective field goal percentage with 4 players that are dominating the ball because they're all stars is fantastic. It comes down to this. The team was not good at spacing. Kenny Atkinson can fix that. The team was hurt last year. Let's hope that doesn't happen this year. The injury bug floated all around Cleveland for all of 2023. Let's hope that doesn't happen for 2024 and it just stays with the 1-6 Browns. Am I right, fellas? If they can get to a point where their offense is, flowing with each other, they can space the ball out. We have Evan Mobley taking and making more threes. The sky's the limit for this team, in my opinion. If they can't do that, we're going to see much of the same next year. And it's going to end up being, between a 44, 48, 49 win team. And we're going to probably get bounced in the second round or the Eastern Conference Finals against a better team, one of these Boston Celtics. I do want to throw one last thing out there real quick. The New York Knicks, in my opinion, this is kind of a hot take before hot takes, made a bad trade. Jared sending Julius Randle and DiVincenzo to Milwaukee for Cat. I love Cat as a player, but he's not what that team is and gritty, and that's part of the reason I think they lost last night. What do you guys think about all that? I spewed a lot of stats, a lot of backing of what my thought process is, but I want to open it up.
I get what you're saying, but the thing is other teams have gotten better, and we're going to run it back. We're saying we can't get past the Eastern Conference Finals, and we're going to run it back just with a new coach. That's not good enough. There's moves that I think can be made. But I don't know. I think we can move LeVert.
Okay, let me ask you this though. You talk about you're going through a process, right? I think the biggest problem with the NBA in today's era is switching off of combinations too quick and moving on to the next star and the next star and the next star. It's my biggest gripe with the NBA. I think the reason they did this is because you have not been able to pull all of the offense out because JB was not good at offense. So you are, yes, running it back, sticking the same with an offensive-minded coach who has done things to pull offense out of players. He did it in Brooklyn. I don't have exact examples in my notes, but he did do this in Brooklyn, making players more efficient on offense to then step forward and become a better team. They made the playoffs with a piss poor team. They were an 8 seed or a 7 seed when he coached there.
And then
but
KD fired him. Yeah.
Listen,
here's the thing. We need to see the offensive scheme tonight, and we need to see what he puts together. Sure. Can we do well with this team? Yes. But you both said that we're losing in either the second round or the Eastern Conference Finals. So what is that step that puts us above? Like Ingram's one of those guys that I think we can go after and makes an impact in this team. There's probably shooters out there we can get so we can spread the floor a little bit. One of my biggest issues with Garland, watching his style of play, I love Garland. I love that he can create shots for himself. But a lot of the time, the offense that we have set up around Garland, he over dribbles and gets into trouble, and then the play's not there anymore when he has wingers open, whatever. So a lot of what we're saying is dependent on the scheme that we're going to see. Sure. My thing is, you have teams like the Celtics and the Knicks making moves to make themselves better. We haven't done squat.
But we have till the trade deadline, first of all. We don't have to make a move in game 182. But the other thing that Noah said that I appreciated was stuff like the scheme and the stats that he broke down. That's the reason I called that one thing out, even though you said it was semantics. If the Cavs were nowhere near the Celtics, I would agree with you. The Cavs are close to the Celtics and the Knicks. They may not be there, but something like a better offensive scheme when you have so many ball dominant
and
guards,
no injuries, that kind of thing could put them very close to that echelon.
So
if
can
not,
this
I know this is going to incur the ire of Erik and Noah both, maybe because they're both championship or you're a failure guys, but making and losing the Eastern Conference Final would be a meaningful step forward for this organization.
So that's my point, though. Is this team, can they win a finals?
We don't know yet, but
No.
We don't know. This is what we do on this show, Noah. I'm asking your opinion. Can this team, as it's constructed, win a finals?
Absolutely. Donovan Mitchell is an MVP of the league caliber player, and if he plays to his full potential and stays healthy, which are ifs, yes. The Cleveland Cavaliers, as constructed, and we're not even talking about Evan Mobley, who, like Noah said, is a unicorn who hasn't come out offensively. I mean, what if you look up to the other side of that coin with like the ifs? What if Evan Mobley in this new offense gets more looks and is scoring 22 a night, plus he's playing Defensive Player of the Year? Now, all of a sudden, people are looking at us and they're saying, how are we going to deal with the Cavs as opposed to the other way around?
I'm not saying blow it up. I mean, I love this team and I love the core of this team. That's not what I was arguing.
That's not what you're saying. I know you want to maybe move one piece and put another one in. I just think they've made the smartest decision, even though in retrospect, we were all kind of like, maybe they're going to move on from one or two of them and bring another guy in. I think they made the smartest decision because all the advanced metrics show that these four can be efficient and play good basketball together. They just haven't had the time or the health to do so yet. And instead of blowing it up without testing it, we're going to test it. And maybe at the trade deadline, you see a move, or maybe they, make a move to retool for the next year, or however that would play out at that point. But I think they made the right decision.
I will say this is with Atkinson coming in, it's the most excited that I've been in a while for Cavs basketball. I'm always excited. Don't get me wrong. I love D Mitch, but I think that he can unlock this team. I don't disagree with that. And I'm really excited to see what he comes out with. I'm just saying that the front office goal is to constantly be making a team better. And it seems like they're not doing a lot while other teams are. Maybe they don't need to right now. Maybe you're right. We see a deficiency that we have and we'll go get a piece at the trade deadline. That's fine. Sometimes I feel like our front office, I think they're handcuffed at times because they do exactly what ownership wants. And you have guys in there that aren't necessarily as creative as maybe some teams could be, for example. We know we don't pay our GM.
Because I don't have the opinion that Dan Gilbert stays out of it and lets the front office run the organization. I don't think he fingerprints on this team at all.
The only time he ever does is to open up the wallet, in my opinion, which he's done in the past. And I mean, we're paying a lot of players right now. We gave two guys max extensions in the offseason, two guys that I think they're going to see as pieces. Gentlemen, I want to ask you one last question so we can move forward. Erik, did you have something to say real quick?
No.
Okay. You looked like you were about to say something. I hate doing this, but I wanna wrap it up and see where your guys' head's at. How many wins, you can give a range, do you think this Cleveland Cavaliers team gets this season?
48 to 52.
Erik?
I would say, I hate doing this. What'd they win last year? 51 games, I think.
48 with the injuries.
I would say, I'm counting playoffs, I guess, but yeah, I would say the numbers right around, I'd be ecstatic with 50 wins.
I'm going to be the optimist that I am, and I'm going to put them at the mid-50s this year. Whether that puts them at a 2 or a 3 seed, I don't know, but that's where I'm going to put them. Gentlemen, I'm going to cut us to commercial break. I'm excited to watch the Cavs here in about 45 minutes' time. When we come back, we're going to talk, does Cleveland have enough to attract top-tier free agents in any of the sports that we have to offer here? We'll be right back with At the Office, the show where we talk all things sports. See you in a minute. And we are back at the office, talking sports, doing our thing, having a blast. Want to shout out a couple things real quick. Want to shout out the Fanatical Elves. We got a lot of people making content over there. They help us do our thing, so I want to help them do their thing. Make sure you check out their content. Sherry has a live show coming up here at about 9:30 tonight, 9:15. Make sure you check her content out. If you're not watching the Cavs game, make sure you hit a subscribe and a follow on our socials, as well as at East Bank Sports Show on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. We probably have it at this point. Can't forget Facebook either. Gentlemen, I want to pose you a question, and I want to hear what your thoughts are, because I have a pretty deep thought in terms of where I stand in this, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. Does Cleveland have enough appeal to attract top-tier free agents in any sport? And I thought this was fitting after all the booing and moaning and complaining that they did in the stadium. Not they, as in the whole fan base, but, you know, the 20%. I was there. It was about 20%. There were a lot of Cincinnati fans there too. But can we attract top-tier free agents to the city of Cleveland, a mid-market team? John, I'm going to have you take us away.
Yeah, devil's in the details on this one for me. I can't answer yes or no for the city. I have to answer by league, because the culture of the league and what
I did the same thing.
And players is a big driver of this. In the NFL, absolutely. Now, today might be a tough day after we cheered for a guy who snapped an Achilles, who we have the situation. We don't need to dive into it. That was bad. I don't approve of that. But on the whole, the Cleveland Browns are a desirable organization to play for. When you look at the history of the NFL, the passion of the fan base, they're right there with like the Packers and Steelers type teams. Is like, there is no NFL as you know it today without the Browns. Now, they haven't had success recently, and I think that's a piece of it. But when the Browns, and I'm not doing this to do it, I'm just saying, when the Browns had Baker and they were kind of like cooking a little bit, and they were like, okay, we got another, or after we came off the Joe Flacco season, or even the Derek Anderson season where we had one good year, if you're a wide receiver, you want to get the ball, we got a decent quarterback, or you're a running back, I think this is an ultra attractive market because you get more stats, because when the weather gets bad, you have to run. So I don't think in the NFL you have an issue. Players have the least power there anyhow. You'll go where the money is, and you'll go where you have a chance to win. And if the Browns can afford players and they're putting a decent team on the field, I think the majority of the time we have no issues. Baseball's different. I think this is a baseball town that's waiting to wake up. The 90s were amazing. Ask Kenny Lofton, Carlos Baerga, Albert Bell, Manny Ramirez, Sandy Alomar, if they loved playing here, all of them would tell you yes. People like J-Ram take pay cuts to stay in Cleveland. People who play baseball here love it here. They like the fans. They like the division. They like the fact that we're in the playoffs. So the issue is the owner who won't pay. So I don't think we're going to be landing Aaron Judge anytime soon, because they're not going to
Juan Soto coming. That's my hot take.
Yeah, Jesus. I love it, Noah, but,
There was actually articles about it.
We talked about it on the Monday show. That's why I brought it up again.
I am going to lose my mind if we get Juan Soto. So maybe come into a podcast near you in the future here if there's smoke with the fire with.
We're
the
gonna
smoke.
open the show with John just crying tears of joy that we signed Juan Soto. If that 1%,
can you imagine watching him play 162 times a year?
No, it would be amazing. Can we pause real quick right there, because I know you guys hate the Yankees and I get it. And obviously I was rooting for the Guards in the playoffs, but that at bat where Juan Soto hit the home run, he's behind, by the way, 0-2 or 1-2, and he's like the nodding and the smiling at the pitcher, like the dude is just full of confidence, and I love it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he made me not like him even more than personally.
I know.
We know you're the closeted Yankees fan. It's okay, buddy. It's okay.
Yeah. Just to wrap up my take, the issue is the NBA. People who come here and play here sign here a lot of times. Donovan Mitchell coming from Utah to Cleveland, is a great example of us being able to retain talent. But when somebody who's playing in Phoenix becomes a free agent and the Knicks and the Heat and the Lakers and the Celtics are calling, can Cleveland compete in the NBA? The answer is probably no. But again, it depends on cap space and money, and what you want to do with your career and where these teams are. Like, if I'm a 3 in the NBA and it's coming up to the trade deadline and somebody says, "Oh, you could go to Cleveland," I think that's awesome. I'm sitting there thinking, hell yeah, if I'm that dude at the 3 position and I can put a team over the top and help, yes. But
Ingram,
like,
listen to this.
yeah, are we going to make a run at, again, insert your favorite superstar here, when the run is up where they are? Probably not, unless they come from a small market. Like, I could see, I almost said Minnesota. Oh, who's the kid, the Minnesota, dunking on everybody, and what's his name? Help me. Yeah. Like, if you say, okay, Cleveland has the most money and I already play in Minnesota, could I see somebody like that picking a Cleveland before they go to LA? Sure, but like, no, like I don't think DiVincenzo's pining to leave New York and play for the Cavs.
Well, DiVincenzo's in.
I know he got traded. I just mean players who move. I don't, yeah.
So I'm going to jump in here real quick because I agree with everything that you said. I think there's a potential with the Browns and, the Guardians, which I think is funny because as I'm writing my list, I actually had Browns at 3, and I think you could tell I was writing this and doing my show prep on Sunday because it was right after the game. And like, my cons for why a person would want to go there is the fans cheer injuries, Haslam's, we're always in a coaching carousel, don't have a court. Anyway, my thought process here, regardless, we can lean and we can talk about everything. I think the city of Cleveland and its sports culture is fantastic at retaining talent. I think it does absolutely nothing to acquire it. I looked in, from 2000 on, big name free agents we've signed. LaCharles Bentley, who never played a snap for the Browns, was a big name though. Jack Conklin, Kareem Hunt, after the scandals and all the issues. Odell Beckham Jr. was listed in some of the lists I was writing. That was a trade. Deshaun Watson was a trade, but it really was a free agency sweepstakes. So I'll give it like a 60%. You're talking Cavs. The only one that we really have is LeBron James and a washed up Shaquille O'Neal. LeBron, yes, but the connection why he would want to do that.
Well,
and Mitchell was a trade.
Yeah, but he re-signed.
That's right. That's retaining. That's not going out and signing someone. That's the difference I'm saying here. We are horrible at attracting. We are fantastic at retaining. What did you say, John?
Wasn't Jarvis Landry pretty hot when we signed him, or was he also a trade?
That was a trade.
Well, you got a good point there.
So I think this city is great for retaining and getting people to buy into the land and the 216 and loving this city. And it's a great Midwest sports town. But when it comes to bringing people in, you talk about it. There's you can go through some of the Guardians, and I could go through the list. Nick Swisher, Michael Bourne, Roberto Alomar, Kerry Wood. They've done it in baseball, so I could see it happening, especially after the run we just had. But when you're talking about in general, we're great at retaining talent, getting people to buy into the culture of Cleveland sports, but attracting it, LA, New York, they're always going to be calling, and we don't stand a chance. Erik, what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I agree with both your takes. The premise of mine was around it involves money and winning. I don't think anybody actually wants to live in Kansas City, and yet they're able to attract talent no problem because they win football games. Noah, to your point, we're never going to be New York City. New York City is the world city. You could argue it's the greatest city in the world. I think we've all been. We enjoy it when we go. To compete with that and be on that national media level and living in a penthouse overlooking Central Park, that's tough. That's a tough ask. I love Cleveland, but unless you're from here, if you have two options, that's going to be tough. when it comes to baseball, it's going to be who's going to pay the most. And with the Dolans, that's never going to be us. Sell the team already, honestly. They've done such good with what they have, but it's a billionaire sport, and we need a billionaire. We can compete with anyone there. I agree with what John said. In basketball, probably not going to happen because of the way salaries are structured. We're just never going to be favored for somebody to pick us, no matter what kind of cap space, unless we're, really trying to build a super team and go into the luxury tax. What I think Deshaun Watson, though, is actually a good example of attracting talent. Obviously, it didn't work out, but the Haslams kind of broke the system a little bit in how much guaranteed money they offered him. It was a fully guaranteed contract. It had never been done before like that. Everyone said you're nuts. Other owners were pissed. And yet he picked us over the other teams he was leaning. Can we continue to leverage contracts like that? Sure. Are you gambling the long-term health of your franchise doing that? Yeah. Probably. But if you're in a win now mode, can we attract people? Also probably. So I agree with
you, Erik. I think part of your point jives with mine. A penthouse overlooking Central Park is attractive if you play for the Knicks or if you play for the Yankees. I don't hear any NFL guys going, I got to be a New York Giant.
Oh, I agree with that.
They're in New Jersey, to be fair. They just have a namesake.
I think the NFL is a different beast, honestly. I think it's much more open, like you were saying. Again, you have teams like no one wants to live in Pittsburgh either, but it's historic franchises. And, I think that, sure, a lot of these young kids probably don't want to come play for the Cleveland Browns. Don't get me wrong. But there is still a historic aspect of imagine if you are the one to turn this around. If you could win a Super Bowl in Cleveland, you're at God level status. And I don't know that you'll see that anywhere else. So I think there is something there with the NFL, but baseball and the NBA, it's different.
Gentlemen, this has been fun. I'm going to push us to final thoughts and takes. I know John's got to get going, so I'm going to let him hop in, do his final thought and take, and say goodbye, and then me and Erik will give ours and wrap this show up. John, lay it on us, big fella.
Appreciate you, brother. I'm going to throw a punch and then wait 2 weeks to take it back because I'm leaving as soon as I finish. It's not that hard. The last conversation we had before I left was that if you're a professional sports franchise and you don't win a championship, you're a failure. And my biggest rebuttal to that is your 2024 Cleveland Guardians. This team overcame a new manager, the toughest division in baseball, went over 90 games, they lost their ace, who was a Cy Young candidate in the first couple weeks of the season, and they took the New York Yankees, who won the American League, to extra innings in 2 straight games before gracefully fighting hard, but gracefully bowing out in the American League Championship Series. If I'd have told anybody in the city of Cleveland who's a Guardian fan, the Guardians were going to be playing the Yankees at home in a game 3, 4, and 5 with a chance to go to the World Series at the beginning of the year, you would have backflipped and been ecstatic. I don't think that the only measure of success in pro sports is championships, and I would urge you to look no farther than this Guardians team this year. I was proud of them. They did themselves proud. They did the city proud. Vogt did a hell of a job. And I would call this season a success despite them not winning a World Series. So
that is such a fine point, and I can't wait for everyone to tune in to my point about an argument John and I had in 2013 so that I can rehash that in my final take.
Just 13 days ago, but okay.
I don't disagree with you.
I love you guys.
It's been a pleasure, man.
Thanks everybody for listening. I appreciate you. We'll talk soon.
All right, John. All right, Erik. Lay it on me. What's your final thought, your final take, so we can send this thing home and go watch the Cleveland Cavaliers?
My final take, I'm going to bring it back to our 30-second take in the Browns, and that is I'm not a Shedeur Sanders fan. I think he's overhyped. I don't like the family. I don't like the loudness. I think Coach Sanders is only in it for himself. There's a lot of hate there. I get it, and I'm not trying to be a hater. I don't even know if Shedeur would come to Cleveland. I can see him pulling an Eli Manning and saying I'm not playing there. I'm not a fan, and I don't understand the hype that this kid's getting.
Yeah, I'm with you on that actually, real quick, before I go into my final thoughts and take. And if you couldn't tell with my Cavs hat real quick, right? Yeah, you can see the C that way. And my
The sharp
Cavs
hat.
gear and, the hype that I'm very excited for the Cavs season, especially being an employee. But before I get into my take that's basketball related, I agree with you. I am not a fan of Shadur. I don't want to deal with the media circus. We already did it with Deshaun. And if he is the only quarterback here, then I would bow out as well and hold on another year and take a bridge guy, even if it's, Jameis. Maybe Jameis is bridgy enough for us to build the bridge on, or whatever you want to say.
I'm excited to see what happens this week with play calling and Jameis.
This is the most excited I have been for a Browns game since probably like week 2 or 3.
I
Probably
agree with that.
Week 3, because that was the Giants game where we lost, actually. Since week 3, this is probably the most excited I've been. And it's not an excitement because, we were going to make a playoff push. It's an excitement of, we're going to see something different, at least, potentially. Right.
New and shiny. And shout out real quick to Nick Chubb, because that was awesome. I know he was limited in carries. He got his touchdown, but what that man means to Cleveland, that was very cool.
Otherworldly, for sure. My final thought and take, just to wrap it back into Cleveland Cavaliers basketball, is I think we are going to see strides of Evan Mobley finally leaning towards that unicorn status. I think Kenny Atkinson is the perfect fit. And I could be wrong. Again, this is hot takes. This is not tried and true, my opinion. I think this is the year we see Evan Mobley turn it up a level on the offensive side of the ball and unlock the great player that has been in there. And the reason we drafted him 3 or 4 years ago now, 3 years ago. And that's just where I'm at. I just have a good feeling about that happening with Kenny Atkinson's offensive prowess. Erik, my man, it has been a pleasure. Anything else you want to say to the people before we get out of here and go watch some basketball?
No, I mean, the only thing that I have to say is go Cavs. I'm excited.
Go Cavs indeed, brother. This has been another episode of At the Office, a show where we talk all things sports. We really appreciate your time. We really appreciate you sitting down to listening to us live, listening to us wherever you take your podcasts. Make sure you hit the download button. Helps us grow the brand. Make sure you hit the subscribe, as I said, out of the ad break, because it, again, helps us grow this beautiful brand we are trying to nurture and cultivate here on all the platforms we upload our content to. We really appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you go and do something you enjoy this week. Don't get too fed up in your sports. It's only sports at the end of the day. But until next time, Cleveland, greater US, whoever's listening, this has been an episode of At the Office, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.